Okay, so we can go ahead and get started. Just was texting with Marshall. He's going to check in here in a minute. So this is our virtual town hall, and it is May 23rd, 2021. So it's our second town hall of 2021, and this is representative. A lot of the information is representative of the first quarter of the year. I believe Mark's financial report actually takes it into May. And I'm joined here by members of our leadership teams who all have several things to say, or each have a report to give. So I'll let them introduce themselves as we go through the meeting. So this is a virtual town hall. That because of our larger in-person attendance, I think, we're definitely going to have to reconsider how we do town halls going forward. And a lot of that has to do with that people are traveling right now. They may have been at in-person worship, and now they're driving home, so they're unable to attend virtual town halls. So we always have the ability to record town halls that are live. So I just want to let you know that, after this one, there's a good possibility we'll go back to in-person and have those live streamed. So there may not be good attendance at this town hall, but we'll email out the recording later this week. So know that the meeting's recorded. If you wouldn't mind keeping your mic on mute so that we don't have background noise or other conversations. And we'll do questions through the chat box. There's a chat. Everyone has a chat function. You can type a question to everyone, and we'll be happy to answer that. If you think of something down the road or listening to it later in the week and have a question, feel free to email me when it's not a live town hall and it's instead the recording. We'll go ahead and get started with David.
Good morning, Brett. Good morning, everyone. Just thought I would kind of rehash a little bit of information, let you know I'm the chairman of the Endowment Committee, and the committee is made up of Rick, Tom Hart, Brett Robinson, Scott Smith, Pete Jasanis, and Mark Dunn. And we've been at this now for a couple of years, working on the Endowment Fund. Two thrusts that we've pushed out there was to try to educate the membership on what the needs are of the Endowment Fund, what the purpose of the Endowment Fund is to review the return on our investments, and to set some goals for growing the Endowment Fund. So we've had a couple of workshops that kind of has helped the membership to understand how they can go about planning giving to the Endowment Fund, and one of those I think is now actually online, so you can even review that at your leisure. The second thing we did was to take a look at our returns on investment, and our funds are invested with the Florida United Foundation, and in looking at those returns, the committee sorry, I think I got muted by mistake. But anyway, it looked like that our returns were below what our expectations were. And so we started doing a lot of inquiry with the foundation on how, what they're doing and how we might improve. Throughout the conversations with them, it became pretty clear that we probably were going to need to make a change. And so we ultimately did decide to move away from the foundation and move our money into Tribent Financial, which is a nationwide organization, but they do have an office in Ormond Beach. And we believe that our funds will be much better, our returns will be much better with this change to Tribent Financial. Now, all of this information had been previously, I think, communicated by email several weeks ago. So, and we didn't have any real questions, but I thought I would, when I finish the presentation here, we'll open it up to see if there's any additional questions about this change or any other questions about the endowment fund. The current balance in the endowment fund, we're happy. It's actually grown quite a bit in the last few months. It sits at $560,000. The scholarship fund at $75,500, and the mission and outreach fund is at $69,600. So we're proud of that. We're still in the process of getting all the funds moved from the foundation over to Tri-Vent, but we think that should be accomplished in the very near future. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, David has to step off. So if you have any specific questions about the endowment, please ask those now, because he's gonna have to jump off here.
You don't have your camera on.
I don't want to be on.
It wouldn't work in there.
Huh?
Anyone? Okay, thanks, David. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna have Amy. Amy's gonna give a presentation. She's gonna share her screen and give a presentation on some of the gathering place goings-ons.
Brett, it says I cannot share my screen. Can you make me co-host?
Let me check.
All right. Thank you, Brett. Alrighty. So we have had a busy couple of months at the Gathering Place. On April 4th, we launched our weekly worship service on Easter, which happens online at 10 a.m. At 10:30, there's a chance for people to engage and interact in real time on Zoom with something called Real Talk, which is we have a discussion question about something that was brought up in the message. And that has been going pretty well so far. And we have a decent worship team of folks who rotate. One of the SPRC updates is that we are in the process of interviewing worship leaders, and that is soon to be coming to an end in the next few weeks. We have used new technology, created a filming studio. Micah has done a fantastic job in bringing us up to date with different technology features to make our online worship high quality, but also very authentic and relational as well. So that's been a lot of fun. We are moving towards in September in-person weekly worship, and we're in the process of identifying the perfect location. Our hope will be Daytona State Technical College or Westside Elementary School once they lift restrictions for outside renters to rent those spaces, which has been hard because of COVID restrictions. But a new day is dawning and things are looking good ahead. Until then, we're doing monthly in-person gatherings. We actually have one today at Jeremiah's Italian Ice. We're using this as an outreach event. I'll talk more about that in a sec. But here are our worship scorecard for April. So our average attendance in April was about 60 worshipers online through 4 different platforms, through Facebook, live stream at firstunited.org/west, YouTube, and IGTV on Instagram. We are rethinking the way we're going to do IGTV and maybe use that as little clips, like preview clips or post clips to put that on, given that it doesn't have the same traction as Facebook, live stream, or YouTube. But it's been fun to experiment with different platforms. May has looked like an average about 48, 46. We've been hovering in that in the month of May. But so far, those have been reaching our benchmarks, and we're pretty happy with that so far. Our financial scorecard looks like we have a budget of $31,298. And that is kind of looks like what we spend monthly with mostly the staffing stuff. Brett has more information about that later. 6 monthly healing hikes. Since December, we've done monthly hikes of different trails around Volusia County, like Tomoka State Park, Bulow State Park, Ponce Inlet Preserve, where we will be with fellowship with one another, go on a hike, and then afterwards have a spiritual devotional. Every single hike so far, we have had at least 1 to 3 people who are not part of the First United or Gathering Place community join us. So that's been really exciting. We have different small groups. We have our launch team, a young women's small group that meets on Monday nights in my backyard, a group that walks the Granada Bridge, about 3 people who walk Granada on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6 a.m. We have a new small group that's developing that is more for folks who would not consider themselves Christians, but are dipping their toe in the water. And then a wholehearted living group, which happens on Fridays in conjunction with the Beacon Center. So we are going through a Brene Brown series called Gifts of Imperfection. And that's been an amazing group to be a part of. Outreach. We have done at-home Easter egg hunt kits for those apartments on Williamson as a way to reach out to them. We've developed a partnership with Westside Elementary School. That was us on Teacher Appreciation Day, and had a laundry detergent and cleaning supply drive to benefit Derbyshire Place and their new family pantry. And we're going to continue to partner with both Westside and Derbyshire and Beacon Center in the future. Today, we are giving out a ton of free Italian ice, which is exciting. It's a chance to connect with folks from the Gathering Place, enjoy free ice cream on us on the intersection of Nova Road and Granada. Some upcoming goals is to hire a part-time worship leader to launch in-person weekly services in September, and a lot of our efforts in that summer will be going towards preparing for that, and to continue to develop a marketing plan and vision through creating a website, doing some community needs assessment, and to hone in our mission and strategy. And that's it. Does anyone have any questions in the chat section? Awesome. All right, Brett.
All right, thank you. So we're on to Linda Armour, who's going to talk about our counseling center task team.
Had a skirt up to here.
Okay, good morning.
Was not a young one either.
I was asked to be part of the task team from the guide team. I'm a member of the guide team to investigate whether or not we should bring back a counseling center to First United. Most of you know that we had the Genesis Counseling Center, which actually started in 1995 and then became totally affiliated with First United in 1999 until Tim McNeil retired. So we've had a long history of having counseling services available on our campus. And most on the guide team felt, let's investigate bringing that back. So we have a task team, as you can see on the screen, Pam Wilson, who comes from experience of a Stevens minister, Rebecca Tozer, who's on the guide team, and Rebecca's also a school counselor, and Dr. Jeff Oatley, who's in private practice as a therapist, and myself, and I'm a retired guidance counselor and guidance specialist for Volusia County Schools. So we all come from that counseling background. If anyone else is interested in talking to Scott about joining our team that maybe has a different perspective, we would welcome that call. We had our first meeting on the 20th, and we are looking at different kinds of counseling models if we bring it back. And those might include the way this started with a board of directors, or do we want independent contractors, or do we just want to act as a host where an existing counseling group can use our space? So there's lots of things to look into. And we each have an assignment. Everyone has groups that they're going to contact before we report back in June. We're also going to look at our Genesis counseling space to see if it's still appropriate as time has marched on in our building. So it's a very early report to all of you, but we wanted you to know that this is in the works and would welcome anyone's opinion. You can see my email up there, or you can also email questions to Brett, but I don't want to preempt the research. So that's really all I have to report at this time.
Okay, thank you. Mark Dunn for our financial report.
Good morning, Brett. Thanks. Yeah, so I got some good news to share with the congregation today, as well as maybe a little bit of some concerns. But these numbers that I'm going over today are through the month of April. Our budgeted year-to-date revenue through April was $377,435. That's our budgeted year-to-date revenue. Our actual is $343,118. That's 10% below our budgeted revenue year-to-date. Of that giving, 63% is made up of online giving. Our budgeted year-to-date expenses is $391,168. The good news is our actual year-to-date expenses are $333,700. So we are actually better on the expense side by 15%. So our giving is down 10% below budget, but our actual expenses are better than budget by 15%. So what does that mean? That means that we are actually, we had actually at this point through April had budgeted a loss, an expense over revenue of $13,733. We were actually to the positive $9,418, which is $23,151 better than budgeted through the month of April. So that's the good news. The one thing that should be concerning to all of us is that giving is down 10%. And as we continue to open up more of the services at the church, it's going to be very hard for the team to continue to control expenses to the level they have at this point. They've done a great job of controlling expenses. But again, as we start to open up more services at the church, expenses will probably start to fall more in line with budget, which means that our revenue needs to start to fall more in line with budget as well. So being down 10%, not so bad, but that's going to need to creep up for certain as our expenses continue to increase. Mission giving year-to-date total is $103,068, which is about 30% of our year-to-date revenue. So it's really, really good that we're giving that much out, and it's 30% of our current revenue. A few other items that I wanted to mention today. At the end of fiscal year 2020, we had a surplus of revenue over expenses of about $200,000, $100,000 of which went into the church's investment account, and the other $100,000 was earmarked for mission giving. Our end of the year cash position in 2020 was just over $958,000. Our current cash position is just over $951,000. Which is really good because again, giving is down a little bit. Also, we had the purchase of the new HVAC unit and the construction necessary to get that project done. That was around $220,000, of which we were able to pay for that out of our reserve funds. So we didn't have to borrow money. We didn't have to finance that. We came right out of reserve funds. Also, as a reminder, the gathering place is incorporated in First United Methodist budget, but however, it is conference funded for the first 4 years on a tiered compensation package that is actually reduced by the conference each year. And at our last meeting, the last town hall, I mentioned that there was no direct way of accepting tithes and offerings into the gathering place. That has since changed. We are now accepting direct tithes and offerings into the gathering place. Brett, that's all I have. If this is more of kind of a high level view of our current financial position. The current financial position obviously is very good, but again, a few concerns there with, again, I hate to keep repeating myself, but I think it's important to note that as we do start to open up more services at the church, our expenses will start to go up, and we need to start seeing that revenue of 10% below budget to start increasing to match up with those expenses. But through the month of April, the staff's done a great job and we're in a good financial position.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate that. So I'm going to
Thank you,
do
Brett.
a couple slides here real quick, just on some operations and facility type of related updates. So we're about 95, 98% done with the air conditioner change out. If you're in church today or have been for the past 6 to 8 weeks, the system is running and is running much more efficiently than the older system that we had. The few photos I have there, we have a chilled water system. So we got new piping and pumps, and that's there on the left. That's kind of down on one of our first floor mechanical rooms. So the project, did not only encompass just the unit itself, but replacing old piping and pumps, and also the removal and then subsequent replacement of that second story block wall, which you'll see that's a current picture. So they actually did a pretty good job to match. You can't really see where we put a hole in the wall and craned the unit in. And that's one of our units that we had replaced down there at the bottom, shiny and new. And so I had mentioned just a second ago, we're about 95% done. We have punch list items. You need to clean up the room a little bit better. You need to give us a document and have this signed and checked. There's just some little punch list items. So we have one more payment of $15,000 to the contractor that we're holding on to. There's no concerns with the system or the way that it's operating. It's more just about making sure that they've done everything that we've asked for them to do. So that's my first bullet point on this part of the presentation. And Mark had touched on the fact that it was $220,000. That's $2,000 more than the project was supposed to cost. So we only went over by $2,000. We noticed that there were some valves that should be changed out in conjunction with this project. So we added those to the work program. So I just wanted to personally thank Dennis Dunn, Bill Rome, and Cecil Underwood and Harold Rock for the time that they put in to help me with this project. And it's been a year or two in the making, but now that we're getting into the summer months, we should have a system that we can rely on. As everyone knows, we also made some changes the last 2 weeks, some pretty significant changes to the COVID-19 protocols. And the church has continued to follow the same process before those decisions are made. And that's to check with not only the CDC and the Florida Conference, but also with our independent church medical team and guide team. So those two teams kind of work independently from each other. So we actually have 4 different groups that we rely on to help us make those decisions. And the 2 main changes to our protocols were effective last week was removal of the pre-registration process and our seating arrangements, where we were kind of being real specific about where you were sitting and making sure that everyone had ample distance. And then this week, of course, with the face covering changes for those who have been vaccinated versus those who have not been vaccinated yet. So we've already seen a gain in attendance, but we will be pretty clear that the live stream and the digital worship and our social media presence is going to continue. So either you're traveling or you're still uncomfortable coming to worship, that's here to stay. So that's going to be something that we continue to do. So if there's someone who wants to continue to worship from home, we encourage you to do that. You'll be able to do that online every Sunday. We received a pretty significant gift at the beginning of this year that was earmarked for technology. So that's kind of touching on that live stream and digital worship and putting together quality videos and sharing those on all of our platforms. And we formed a task team to review the best use of those funds. We're in the process of spending about half of them on upgraded cameras, upgraded sound and mic equipment, and some upgraded lighting. And a lot of it has to do with the ability to move mobily and shoot videos in various locations, either throughout our campus or in the sanctuary or in the community. Some of those improvements will be made in the sanctuary itself to enhance the worship experience in the sanctuary. But again, some of that is to kind of try to capture some stuff outside the worship gathering. And then another kind of COVID change, but just a big change for staff is we have been permitting staff to work remotely or have the ability to, to have an idea of what they wanted to do as far as working remotely. So if they had decided that they wanted to continue to be working from home, we allowed that. But it's beginning June 7th, we're going to move back into the office where all staff will be here Monday through Thursday, and then I'm here on Friday as well. And that's with a volunteer receptionist. So we that with some of the COVID changes that we made for worship and with face coverings, felt like now is also the time to start bringing staff back into the office to work on a regular schedule. That'll bring some continuity to people who want to stop by and visit the office or participate in small groups or whatever they may need during the course of the week. I'm going to turn it over to Marshall Snyder. Marshall is our SPRC chairperson. He's going to talk about a few things real quick.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Brett. The SPRC committee, I should tell you, consists of Angie Pye, Angie Giannini, Carol Peak, Tim LeBlanc, Sarah Keene, and Jordan Gelati. Jordan is our newest member. We have responsibility for a number of things, but one of the things we do is we do the annual pastor evaluation. That's Scott and Amy both, and this year it was a particularly challenging process in that we had a new process that the conference provided us with, which was a learning process for us all. But the evaluation needed to be done against the backdrop of a pandemic, which was nothing that anyone had expected. But the bottom line is that First United is really blessed to have qualified leaders, as we do in Scott and Amy. They took on the obstacles as they were brought before them. They managed to keep us safe and continue to develop and deliver messages and make a difference in the community. And they performed admirably is the bottom line. On the staffing front, we have two open positions. The youth ministry leader position that Micah previously occupied, and the worship leader for the gathering place that you heard Amy refer to a bit ago. The good news is that the search has been successful, as we have quality candidates for both positions. Most of the candidates have been through a second interview, and reference checks are underway. So we expect there will be closure on those positions within the near future, and that will be great for a lot of people. That's what I have. And any questions?
Thanks, Marshall.
All right, I'll talk about Williamson Property. I'm Julia Harris. I'm chair of the guide team, but today I'm coming from negotiating team. And those members also include Bob Wilson, Dana Smith, Tom Hart, and Brett. And the property continues to move forward in our sale. There are two kind of big things that are coming up right now. One is our discussion with the county about retention areas. And if you remember, the county wants to widen Williamson, and they're looking for a place to put their retention areas for that project. The picture that we have up right now is what the county would prefer to do. And that would be to put in a large retention area at the northern end of the property, and then a smaller one right there at the corner of Strickland Range Road and Williamson. This is not our favorite idea. It takes up some pretty valuable property, especially in the parcel that we are going to retain. And so we've been told that the county is moving forward with pricing out this option, basically just to use as a comparison with the option that we have presented to them. So that's what we are dealing with right now. And hopefully that will resolve shortly. Brett, if you can go to the next slide. This is the retention system that our buyer's engineer has put forward. It's actually a system of ditches and of kind of varying heights toward the back of the property where there are unbuildable wetlands anyway. And this system would take care of drainage for the entire parcel, including what we're selling and what we're holding on to, as well as drainage for the Williamson Road widening project. So there's a lot to like about this system, not the least of which is that it leaves the most buildable acreage available and the most desirable acreage available being along the road front. So we're hopeful that the county will see the benefit to this. Our buyer has agreed that he will take over building and maintaining this system if it's approved, which is also a bonus for us. We won't have to deal with any maintenance on that system. Okay. And the other issue that has come up with the property, it has to do with our planned development agreement. We have had one in place since we bought this property. When you have a commercial property, you have to submit to the city a building plan. And we have done that, and we've done a couple of extensions as well. And this newest one will allow for the 42 acres-ish that we're going to be selling to be removed from our current planned development agreement and kind of set on its own. And then it will also extend our deadline for submitting site plans and build out plans for the property that we'll retain. Those 42 acres, you can kind of read all of the things there that the buyer wants to add to the plan development agreement. And that's just to help them with what they have told us that they want to build, which is kind of an assisted living facility that goes all the way from assisted living, maybe into, memory care, nursing home type of care, along with some medical buildings and maybe a restaurant or kind of a Main Street feel to that as well. So we are still just kind of negotiating out the details of that to make sure that our needs are met as far as the plan development agreement for what we'll be retaining, as well as what will kind of be set aside. But good news, hopefully things will continue to move forward.
Okay, thanks, Julia. So I'll let Scott kind of close it out here. And then in the meantime, while he's doing that, if you have questions, please put those into the chat right now. I'll make sure I'm monitoring that.
All right, so am I on?
Sure.
All right, so hey, I'm appreciative of everybody and their leadership teams that we have in place. That it's nice to be the pastor of a church where there's a team that comes around and does what we do. And I'm also grateful to all of you who are checking out online, because I think it's important for you as church members to know what's going on. And we hope to have an understanding that anytime you need to know or you have questions or concerns, feel free to call us or email us. We'd love to discuss it with you to make sure you're in the know of what you need to know. And so we want to make aware of that. I'm also grateful for the people that give their time and talents, their gifts and their service to make our church who we are. As we're coming out of this pandemic, there are a lot of unknowns still that we're figuring out. And so the grace and the patience that you have shown us, I'm extremely thankful for. So if you got questions, let us know. If not, thanks for being with us. And may we all be blessed by God's love and God's grace.
Thank you. So I don't see any questions in the chat, but if you're watching this on a recording, feel free to email us. My email is brobinson@firstunited.org. Thank you.